Hello children! So we are back again with yet another chapter in English, Standard 10, NCERT syllabus, First Flight textbook, and the name of the poem is Dust of Snow, written by a very well-known poet, Robert Frost. Robert Frost was actually an American poet, and he had won the Pulitzer Prize for 4 times. Well, Pulitzer Prize is a very well-known, respectable kind of an award that is given to literary personalities for making an extraordinary contribution in the field of literature. And imagine, Robert Frost had won it for 4 times. So we are fortunate that we are going to study a poem written by such a genius personality. Robert Frost is well known for being a romantic poet, and this romantic word does not have to do anything with the romance that is shown in movies and romantic novels. Here it means love of nature. So in Robert Frost's poetry you will find natural aspects reflecting the philosophy of life. So here also you can expect some nice philosophical lesson about life to be learnt in a few minutes from now. Let's begin. The poem is reflecting before you on your screen. It is so short. It runs through only 8 lines. Let's start. The way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. So before we understand the poem itself, let us go through the meanings of difficult words first. So here is the list of difficult words and their meanings. The first one may be shook, past tense form of shake. The second one is apparently for you, dust of snow may be difficult to understand. It is nothing else but those fine powdery particles of snow. Okay. Then the third one is hemlock tree. Well, it is a poisonous tree that has small white flowers and it is found in the USA. The picture in front of you on the screen is that of a hemlock tree in winter. It looks very beautiful in winter when it is covered with a lot of snow. And the last word, rued. It is the past tense form of rue and it means regretted or felt sorry about. So let's move on. Okay, so before we understand the poem line by line, let us first see how each symbol has worked in the poem. So the first one is crow. It is a symbol normally of something inauspicious related to death and mourning, even in other cultures apart from India. Okay, it is not a very pleasant kind of a reference, you know, like other birds you find easily in English and other language poetry, like peacock or nightingale or cuckoo. But here the poet has intentionally used crow, and you will know why. Then there is this hemlock tree. You see, this is also a poisonous tree and poison causes death. See, crow is also a symbol of something related to death or mourning, and then this hemlock tree. So the poet has created a very sad, a very gloomy kind of a background, you see, to make us feel his emotional state of mind, what he was going through then. He must be thinking about something very, very sad at that moment when he was sitting under the hemlock tree. Okay, so here you have this, both these images refer to the poet's depressed state of mind indirectly. Okay, an atmosphere of gloom, unhappiness is created by using these images. Then the third one is dust of snow. Well, the fine dust of snow is pure, soft and white. It is actually a mood changer here, okay? It brings a quick automatic response of happiness in the poet. When the snow falls on him from the tree, it is utterly an unexpected incident for him. He perhaps even didn't know that a crow was perching on the tree. And when he was sitting under the tree, his mood was really very sad. And this incident suddenly made him feel happy. So these snow particles here are a symbol of positivity, calmness and happiness. Then the last one here, some part of the day I had rued. Okay, it means the time wasted on thinking about the sad situations that you cannot change or you cannot control. So you can understand that the setting here is winter time in the USA because the hemlock tree is covered with snow. And I hope children you know what a rhyme scheme is. Just to remind you, rhyme scheme depends upon the last word of each line in the poem, and you have to see that the last word of first line matches with which of the lines in the poem if they match. Likewise the second line, the third line and on. Accordingly you give alphabetical letters from A for matching words. So here let me show you. Line 1 ends with crow and line 3 of the poem ends with snow. So they are rhyming with each other. Okay, so we will number them both A. Then line 2 ends with me and line 4 ends with tree. So they rhyme with each other. So we will name them B because A is covered, now B. So if you see line 1, 2, 3, 4 in order, the rhyme scheme will be A, B, A, B. Got it? Okay. And the second stanza, line 5, it ends with heart and line 7 ends with part. Line 6 ends with mood and line 8 ends with rude. So here you see heart and part, they rhyme with each other. Now because A and B are covered, so we will move to C, letter C. So they both are named C and line 6 and 8 are named D because mood and rude also rhyme with each other. So the rhyme scheme of second stanza will be CD, CD. Okay. But suppose in exam they ask you what is the rhyme scheme of the verse dust of snow, your answer should be AB, AB. An important aspect of this poem is structurally, sentence structure wise, that the whole poem runs through only 8 lines and the whole poem is actually covered in only a single complex sentence. Okay, but that is the talent and that is the mastery of an expert poet, that when you go through the poem you feel like you can write a long thesis on the meaning of this poem. So this is like a big powerhouse in a small packet. Let's move on. Friends ask you, okay, you did the poem Dust of Snow. Tell me the meaning of the poem in short. You can give the meaning of this poem in short in just one sentence. How? Let me show. It means a crow showered me with snow while I was sitting sadly under a hemlock tree, and this relieved me of my sorrow. Yes, but then children, it is not that simple in understanding. The deep meaning is a little bit more, because if it was so much an ordinary kind of a poem, it wouldn't be included in the textbook, NCERT textbook of standard 10. So there is something for you all to understand. So I hope you have understood that there is something like sorrow in this poem, and there is something like relieving the the person from this sadness, right? So let us understand how the whole process takes place. So this is the meaning in detail. See, in the first stanza, the poet was sitting under a hemlock tree on a winter day. He was sad and in a regretting mood. Okay? But then, suddenly, a crow made some movement. Okay? And this movement, now it is not clearly shown what kind of movement the crow made, but that is unimportant to us. Some kind of movement that dropped a little snow on the poet from the tree. And in the second stanza, it shows that this incident made him happy. Now he realized, he felt that this small incident that changed his mood for better had saved the rest of his day, because he had already wasted a part of the day in feeling sorry about the past unhappy events. He realized that seemingly inauspicious things also can bring a positive change. So here, what is seemingly inauspicious things? Yes, I hope you understood almost everything except only the seemingly inauspicious in this explanation. Seemingly means something that appears to be but may not be that way. जो सिर्फ दिखता है कि ऐसा है, रियलिटी में कुछ और भी हो सकता है. And here, something inauspicious. So in our language we may call inauspicious as ashubh, right? So now I hope you understood that I am talking about the crow and the hemlock tree, right? The poet realized that those things which are not so pleasantly associated with human life can also bring a positive change in your own perspective, in your own thinking. How? This crow is not a sweetly singing bird. You would shoo it away if it keeps on disturbing you, right? It is not like cuckoo or nightingale. You would like them to perch near you and sing long. Then there is this hemlock tree. People would normally keep away from this tree for the fear of its poison, right? And these both are associated with death, mourning, and the poet also must be in a mourning state of mind, right? That's what he has said, that I had wasted a part of my day. He realized, suddenly that realization came upon him that he should not have done this. He couldn't change his past. He couldn't change the things that went wrong. And when suddenly something happy took place, it brought a kind of a pause button in his thinking process. And suddenly he realized what he was doing. Okay? And then the snow particles, as they fell on his body, gave him a pleasant feeling. He realized that it is so easy to feel happy. Message of the poem, children. It is very straight as an arrow. Happiness can be found easily even in the unhappiest times of life. So children, being board students, you also may be feeling a lot of stress in uncertain times like this as we are passing through. You also must have a lot of mood swings. You may have a lot of unhappy times sitting at home and not being able to go out. So here this poem, I think, comes very timely for you. Happiness can be found easily even in the unhappiest times of life. This is the message of the poem. Let us move on to understand the poem better. See, as I said earlier, even the so-called inauspicious things can give us pleasure if we change our perception. Right? Perception means the way we think, the way we understand something. Here the crow and the hemlock tree are associated with death, but still they provide an opportunity to the poet to be happy. The poet now realizes that sorrow is a part of life. You cannot escape, you cannot run away from it. So we need not waste our time, mood and energy on the things which we cannot control. Instead, we should focus on those small things in life which give us happiness. The element we call life is not the years we have lived, but not the whole amount of time that we have spent already and it is gone, but the moment, every moment that we live, every moment that is passing, that is life. So how is your life? Sad or happy? Well, it depends upon your mood in every moment. If in this moment you are unhappy, your life in this moment is unhappy and gone, wasted. If you are happy in this moment, your life is a happy life. And Robert Frost's children is considered to be a very philosophical kind of a poet. His poems on first reading will feel like, okay, he's writing about snow, he's writing about farms, fields covered with a lot of snow on a winter evening, or he's talking about a forest and the roads in a forest, and himself being a traveler all around. And if you don't understand the poem in depth, you would feel like he is a fellow who loves making a lot of adventures and he loves nature a lot. Yes, that's true. But the fact is that there is a totally another layer of understanding to the whole poem that gives it a lot of richness of meaning. And here, when you read the poem for the first time, let me repeat for you. It read like this: the way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had drewed. You would have wondered, what is this? Such a small and insignificant kind of a poem. Why they gave us this? But you see, children, that as you are growing up, your personality is also developing. Right? You are developing certain way of life, way of thinking, your attitudes, your perceptions, right, which will mold your life in future. So this poem, the first one, that too in the textbook, is given here for us to understand this and learn this lesson of life, that happiness is our own choice. And sitting and crying over this spilled milk is really a useless activity. It is not going to give us anything fruitful in return, right? It is always better to think constructively, and the first step to think constructively is to have a positive attitude, to be happy about yourself, to be happy about the time that you have still in your hands, right, which you can spend in a positive way. मीन्स सब कुछ नहीं लुट गया, थोड़ा वक्त जो बर्बाद हो गया वो गया, जाने दो, लेकिन बाकी जो समय बचा है दिन में या पूरी लाइफ में, उसको तो हम संवार सकते हैं with our positive attitude. So that's it. The word has an association with some typical meaning which almost everyone knows, right? A common association. So as here, crow, it represents mourning, death, or deep sorrow, or something too negative. You look at a crow and you just listen to its sounds, you feel like, no, I don't want this. Then the second one is hemlock tree. See, that is also a representative of something poisonous, something toxic, something that needs to be removed. Right? So it again has a negative association. Right? And as I said earlier, that the poet wanted to create an atmosphere of sadness as a background. so that we would understand what he was going to tell us better. Okay, so he did not use a cuckoo bird or a nightingale bird, and he did not use a very happy kind of tree, not an oak, not a pine, not a banyan tree or mango tree like Indians, right? But a hemlock, a poisonous tree, means perhaps that was the inside out kind of thing. Whatever was inside him was reflecting outside. Those negative thoughts that he was having at that moment, he was regretting. He was regret karna matlab afsos karna. So he was regretting about something that was not so good in life. So those thoughts were like poison, and he was sitting under the tree. So he was metaphorically he was sitting under, means he was taking shelter under his own negative thinking. He has surrendered himself to his negative thinking. Clear? So hemlock tree here is the symbol of something too toxic, right? So figure of speech used here is metonymy. And then the last one is, in this last line, saved some part of a day I had rued. So day is actually the action or events of the day, not the time that had passed, right? How here he had spent the time through those actions, right, in those events and with his attitude. So those things about which he had regretted. So one thing refers to the other thing, right? That is metonymy. Then we have metaphor. Metaphor, dust of snow. The poet compares the falling of snowflakes from the hemlock tree to dust, falling of dust, right? So how do you understand metaphor? You understand simile first and then you understand metaphor. See, like the snowflakes falling on his body felt like dust, right? So when you say felt like dust, it is simile. And you remove this like, it felt like dust. You say it was dust of snow. Then it becomes implied comparison. In simile you have clear, explicit, जो एकदम obviously clearly सामने दिखता है. तो with the words like and as आपके सामने वो चीज़ दिखाई जाती है कि देखो यहाँ पे ये एक चीज़ है, दूसरी ये एक चीज़ है, and we are comparing the two, right? Like the snowflakes were like dust. But in metaphor, this like is taken away and with a few changes in the words, it shows that the comparison is implied. मतलब हमको समझ लेना है कि यहाँ पे actually comparison है. So dust of snow, right? Then the next, synecdoche. And I hope children you remember what synecdoche is. It is always part used for the whole, right? So whenever in the poem like this you have a part of something referring to the whole of it, there is synecdoche. For example, here this falling of the snowflakes on his body has given his heart a change of mood. So synecdoche, to understand it this way, that not just his heart but his whole personality, his whole thinking, it got a U-turn, it got a beautiful change, right? So it is not just part but the whole, but by referring to the part we are talking about the whole. So the poet says his heart has undergone a change in mood which actually represents his whole personality. Then we have alliteration. You know it very well. Line 5 you have has given my heart. So sound of ha is repeating. By these two slash marks around this letter H, I mean to say it is the sound of ha and not letter H. This is phonetic transcription. That means the script of sounds, the way we speak. Okay, so the sound of ha is repeating in the beginning of a word. The sound is repeating like another word in the same line which starts with that sound. So it is has and heart, sound of ha, and then sound of sa, alliterated in line 7, that is and saved some part. Right? So sound of sa is repeating in this line. Yes, children, now you have to test your understanding of the poem with these questions, whether you understand what to write in these questions or not. Let's see. The first one, what is dust of snow? I hope you have understood it by now, that it is the tiny fine particles of, powdery particles of dust, right? What does the poet say that has changed his mood? Tell me. Yes, a crow which was perching on the hemlock tree under which the poet was sitting had made some movement on the tree in such a way that made some snow fall on the poet. The poet was startled, means suddenly surprised, startled by this incident, and this gave him a change of mood. He was sitting and frowning over something that he could not control. But when this happened, suddenly, spontaneously, एकदम साहजिक रीते, spontaneously, he felt very happy. How has the poet's mood changed? We have discussed. How does Frost present the nature in this poem? Think about it. The poet has used the nature to refer to two different things in this poem. The first thing is winter. Normally, children, in the English literature particularly, winter refers to something that is difficult times in life. Okay? Like when winter is there, can spring be far behind? So after winter, you are going to definitely face happy time in life. Spring refers to happy time in life. So the first thing is winter, negative, right? Snow, that way. Why in foreign, particularly the Western culture, snow and winter is associated with something negative? Because when there is a lot of snowfall, for people it is too difficult to go out of their house and do their work, right? Life, even daily routine life, becomes difficult when there is too much snow around. So basically a lot of snowfall equals to a lot of difficulties, right? Earning becomes very difficult in winter days. So that is one thing. Then this crow and this hemlock tree, these two also are part of the nature, right? So negative aspects are there. But then when the snow falls upon him, the snow is also a part of the nature. So when the snow falls upon him, that gives him a happy feeling. So the nature is presented in both the ways in this poem. One, negatively, and explain how winter, the snowfall, then the crow and the hemlock tree, how they represent sadness and difficulties in life, and then how the falling of the snow itself gives his heart a happy change. So a part of the nature only makes him feel happy. Then the next one is, what are the birds which are normally named in poems? So I have told you the most common names like cuckoo or nightingale or even peacock. And what images come to your mind when you think of a crow, right? So we normally feel irritated, and at least it is not a very happy sign. What's a hemlock tree? And why doesn't the poet write about more beautiful trees such as a maple or an oak or a pine? Okay, why poisonous tree? So I have already told you that it is a kind of indication, an indirect indication to all of us that like the tree is poisonous in nature, his thoughts, what he was going through in his mind, his thoughts were poisonous in nature, means were very negative, and negative thinking actually works as toxins in our life, in our body, right? So only to create that atmosphere, he did not use any beautiful images with oak or pine or maple trees, right? This tree associates very well with the background of the poem and his state of mind at that moment. Then the next question is, what do crow and hemlock represent? Joy or sorrow? And what does the dust of snow that the crow shakes off the hemlock tree stand for? I have already told you, you can write that very well. Dust of snow is positive, right? Remember that. And what is the condition of the poet? What was the condition of the poet? So he was feeling sad, he was feeling like he was regretting about something that he could not control. He had wasted that amount of time of the day thinking about that negative aspect of his life. So that was his condition at that moment. Perhaps he was sitting under this hemlock tree to lament over those sorrowful things, right? He wanted to sit alone and cry in loneliness, maybe. And when did the poet's mood change? Now you know it already, right? What is the rhyming pattern of this verse? Okay, so the rhyming pattern of this verse is, yes, A, B, A, B.